Are you about to take your oral or written exams in graduate school and you're feeling really nervous? How do you deal with that? Let's talk about it today on this episode of Navigating Academia. What's up, Navigating Academia family? My name is Dr. J. Phoenix Singh, and I'm coming at you today with another episode of Navigating Academia, your leading source for guidance on how to advance your career in academia. Now, before we get started today, where I'm going to be answering a valued viewer's question, please do me a huge favor and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and in addition to that, if you have subscribed and you love our content, you really want to support us in terms of making new original content and helping us to upgrade our gear, please consider subscribing down here as one of our Patreon patrons. You get access to a whole bunch of exclusive videos, including recordings of all of our previous live streams. You get to choose topics for future live streams. You get a personal shout out from me. And in addition to that, you get major discounts if you ever want to do one-on-one coaching with me. And it would be a pleasure to do that with you. If you are interested in booking a one-on-one consult with me, you can do it down here via my personal website, which is www.jphoenixsing.com. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Today's question is from Fish Crazy 104. Guys, if you want to ask me a question, please give me a name to call you. Now, I want to apologize to Fish Crazy 104 because if that's your legal name, number one, high five. Number two, I need to speak to your parents so I can shake their hands. In the meanwhile, let's go ahead and jump into it though. Here was Fish Crazy 104's question. They said, I am in the process of taking my oral and written exams. How did you beat your nerves and were you able to remember all of the information? I'll tell you, mate, I was so nervous. I still remember when I was doing my equivalent of orals and comprehensive exams over in the UK. It's called a transfer viva when I was at Oxford. Oh, I was a bundle of nerves, let me tell you. And remember, if you guys watch my videos, I failed my first time in terms of oral exams. I had so much other stuff going on in my life. I was prioritizing a relationship. I was prioritizing socializing, everything over what I should have been prioritizing. So I actually have a video on like the top reasons why I failed my oral exams and how I passed them the second time around. So if it's something where, God forbid, you don't happen to pass those exams, be sure to watch that video. Not only so I can commiserate with you, but so I can tell you exactly how to deal with it, okay? So remember, it happened to me. If it happens to you, calm, cool, and collected, we'll get through it together, okay? So, number one, how do you beat your nerves? This is a great question, and really, you've almost already given yourself the answer because we're talking about your nerves, right? Now, at the end of the day, the key thing here is the autonomic nervous system, right? This is the part of your nervous system that basically has to do with fight or flight. Our bodies are evolved to not know the difference between like a cheetah chasing us through the savannas of Africa and like a math test. This is one of the reasons, by the way, that you usually go and pee before you take an exam. It's because your body's like, I can run faster if I urinate beforehand. And so that's why you go and do that. You get really nervous. That's what you do. It helps you with fight or flight. Anyway, random fact, the more you know. In any case, we need to slow that autonomic nervous system down. We need to chill it out, okay? And there's a variety of ways to be able to do that because at the end of the day, I don't want you to just be prepared. That's what everybody's gonna tell you. And I'm gonna tell you that too. Practice, practice, practice. We'll get more into that in a second, but it's one thing to be prepared, it's another thing to feel prepared. Now, it's gonna be different for everyone. Where does that feeling of preparedness come from? And I need you to figure out, mate, for you, where does that come from, okay? And as you explore it further and further, you're gonna figure out what makes you feel like you're ready to go. This could be everything from something silly like, wearing your pair of lucky socks. It could be something of, you talk to your parents every single day and, your mother sings you a specific song or something like that. I remember getting woken up when I was in high school. My mother, because I was living at home, obviously, as in high school, my mother would walk down or whatever to be able to wake my sister and I up, and she'd knock on the door and sing this morning song. And it was something like, good morning to you, good morning to you, good morning, good morning, good morning to you. Now, not only was that not motivating, I legitimately have nightmares at age 35 in the morning that I'm just hearing somebody coming down to be able to wake me up. I mean, it's terrifying to me. Sorry, Mom. In any case, though, it's something where you need to figure out what does work for you, right? It may not be what makes other people feel prepared, but that's none of their business, none of your business. Okay, so that's number one. Second thing, breathing exercises. There's an app that I actually really recommend. None of the things that I mentioned here sponsor the channel or anything like that. So the app is called Breathwork, and it's spelled B-R-E-T-H-W-R-K, not W-O-R-K, W-R-K. And you can get it for free. Yes, it's a freemium system, but you can just stick with the free version. That thing is awesome in terms of evidence-based breathing patterns for things like relaxing an overactive mind or helping you get to sleep at night. I use that myself. I'll make another video on it, but I have a history of like chronic stress, mostly from taking on too much, specifically when it comes to running businesses. And so because of that, apps like that really help me out a ton, okay? So that's number one. We gotta calm that autonomic nervous system down, and deep breathing is a great way to do it. Oftentimes when our brain's going crazy, it's because the limbic system, in terms of like our amygdala, for example, and our usually, especially the history of depression, right? Your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex up here is a part of the wrinkly part of your brain, cerebral cortex. It's compromised, and it can't chill the amygdala out, okay? And so because of that, it can just kind of take over your brain. So there's an even deeper level, though, called the hindbrain, right? And the hindbrain is the part of the brain where you actually are going to see things like breathing be regulated. So think about it like this. It's not top-down processing, it is bottom-up processing. Think about like hacking into your brain, right, from the bottom up. That's the idea here, okay? Another way to do it is through meditation. I gotta tell you guys, I am not somebody who ever, sat around and just said like om or anything like this. I never did yoga, I never did Pilates. I mean, the likelihood of me sitting still was like a nil, right? But that said, I finally, at the behest of a colleague of mine, purchased this thing. It's called a Muse, M-U-S-E, a Muse S, right? And it's kind of like a soft head strap that has the equivalent of something like a biofeedback machine that's on it. That thing is freaking amazing. Think about it. You put the thing on and there's a bunch of guided meditations, and if your mind goes off of your breath, you literally hear like storms and all, and when you get into the zone and you're really focused on your breath and you're really relaxed, you can hear birds chirping. It's one of the most insane things I've ever used in my life. I am very hard to impress, and that thing is amazing. So in terms of really focusing and getting kind of almost a gamification of meditation, I really recommend the Muse S. It does cost a few $100s, which I know is expensive, but at the same time, it is totally worth it, especially if you are having major anxiety problems. And don't forget that 38% of men and 44% of women at some point during their doctoral careers are going to come away having some type of clinical depression or a major anxiety disorder. And that's super scary, I get it, but luckily protective factors like deep breathing exercises as well as meditation can help to, provide that buffer if nothing else, okay? Now, next thing, the next thing you asked me is how was I able to remember the information? Okay, first thing is, fine, practice, practice, practice. I'm not a big affirmation guy, but affirmations do work. There's literature on it. In addition to that, I really wanted to make sure that you're studying in as many places as possible. Study around a lot of people, study alone. Study with earplugs in, study without earplugs in. Study in loud places, study in quiet places, right? Study near windows, study in rooms that have no windows whatsoever. Why? Because you never know what's going to happen on the day of your defense or your comps. So for example, I remember when I went to take the GRE, I had studied in pretty quiet environments. I went on a Saturday morning to the testing center, and literally they were doing construction outside on a Saturday, and then this huge like jackhammer, right? there were like 3 of them directly outside the window. And I was like, oh my gosh, right? So this is why it's really important for you to the extent possible to be able to practice your presentation over and over again, or doing kind of practice comps over and over again in different locations, okay? And try to make it as real as possible in terms of state-dependent memory. If you already know where the comp is gonna be, or where your presentation, your defense is gonna be held, practice in that room or around that area, or in an area that as closely as possibly mimics the specific sort of room you're gonna be in. What's it gonna smell like? Is it next to a bakery? Then maybe bake some bread before you study. Sounds ridiculous, but state-dependent memory is a real thing, a very strongly empirically supported thing. I still remember what I used to do is I love Nag Champa. If anybody knows Nag Champa incense, I love it. So what I used to do in college is anytime before I studied for a psych exam, I would like literally smell this Nag Champa incense, and then I would take some with me to my exams. I probably looked like a crazy person, but I also had a 3.96 GPA at the end of the thing, right? At the end of my undergraduate years. So it's one of these things, I mean, I guess that's part of what worked, but you need to do what the literature says. And part of that is I want you to treat the months before you have your comps as well as before you've got that defense in terms of your oral exams. I want you to treat it like a boot camp, a physical boot camp and a mental boot camp. With the mental side, we've already talked about what you need to do, but a key piece of it is physical as well in terms of sleep. You need to make sure you're getting at least 8 hours of sleep a night, if not more. And in addition, you need to make sure that your alcohol consumption is low. Obviously, no illicit drug use, please, including marijuana. I want you to make sure that in terms of what you're eating, eat a relatively low carb diet. So I would say 50 to 100 grams of carbs or less per day to be able to stop kind of insulin cycles from going up, down, and all around. And what I really want you to do is to be able to make sure you're drinking enough water and that you're nice and stable, okay? If your friends are going out and doing stuff, God bless your friends. If they're really your friends, they're gonna understand that for a couple of months that you're just going to be chilling and doing your thing so that you can ace this stuff. And I promise you that the more you get into some sort of a cyclical rhythm when it comes to preparing, the better off you are going to be, okay? So those are my recommendations for you. Thank you so much for your valued question, Fish Crazy 104. My hope is that your first name is Fish Crazy 104 and your last name is Singh. This way you're part of the Punjabi family up in here. In any case, have a great day, guys, and don't forget to get out there, take chances, and be your best self. See you in the next one. Thank you so much for stopping by, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here as always. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more in this series on navigating academia, please click on one of these links over here to be able to view more original content. I hope to see you there.